I came across a social media post that said, we shouldn't assume that AI is inherently good. And to me, that reflected some of the criticisms of AI. This idea that AI is going to remove social inequalities and provide more opportunities for marginalized groups. As someone who uses AI tools and who is constantly learning about AI technology, I agree with the statement that it is not a social relations equalizer. Far from it. There's not going to be an artificial intelligence tool to eliminate racism and to eliminate sexism and to better distribute wealth across a society. That kind of change requires major fundamental transformation of institutions. So, I'm happy that in the communities that I am a part of, where we are learning about AI technologies and experimenting with different tools, that's not the angle that they're coming from. I'm in a community called AI Advantage, and I really like that approach because I think that's what AI provides is an advantage, especially if you are employed and you do work, right, using computers and technology, which most people do, then I think that AI can provide an advantage for you. It can reduce some of the mundane tasks and the labor and time and energy that goes into constructing a lot of things that you need to do in an employment atmosphere. So I do think there is an advantage to just being aware and having some knowledge of what's happening in technology in general. I do think that that is advantageous, just like learning about what's going on in the world through current events or taking a class or, any of those sorts of things are going to have a particular advantage to them. But an advantage is not an opportunity. An advantage is not a remedy. So I strongly oppose this idea that AI is going to make life more bearable or better quality for marginalized groups of people. That's just not true. And the people that are selling that argument are being dishonest. In the US, there's been centuries of oppression and racism and genocide and all kinds of things that have taken place. And when there has been major landmark change, that's been through years of protest activity, social upheaval, right? All kinds of, instances of death and disaster to bring that about. So when we understand that and we look through the lens of history, it's pretty easy to debunk this notion that, AI is the savior. It's the great equalizer for all people. And even if we look at where these tools are developed, who controls them, who the owners are of these companies and things like that, we see the same sort of patterns, that they're typically white men or men, right, in general. Who have ownership over this technology, as is the case with most technology in the US and probably around the world, outside of, I guess, Asia. But even then, I would say it's probably a lot of men still. So that is the core of the issue, one of the cores of the issue. And that's where we need to address change. If you're wanting to bring about better and more equitable social relations, then those are the kinds of things that we need to address. Opening up more space for different people to have opportunities to be innovative and bring their things forward to the masses. and have them adopted wide scale at the same level that white men are able to. That is what brings about change. So, do I think that people should learn AI? I think do whatever you want. It's your life. But for me, and even my children, I do think that they should have some sort of understanding about what it is, how it operates, what some of these tools are, and how to use them responsibly and ethically, and also maintain your own intelligence and critical thinking and your own skills in the meantime, because that's totally possible to do. Right? I'm someone who has written textbooks and other written publications long before there was a chat GTP. So I know how to write. I have a 20-year teaching career and almost that long of a writing career. So I know, how to do this stuff. But I also find chat GTP good for helping me to generate different ideas, to come up with different subject lines for things. Not that I couldn't do that myself, but for me, that's kind of just like busy work that I could just save myself. I could save myself that time. That's the way that I think about it. But whenever I use any of these tools, I make sure that I'm coming with my own information and my own understanding first. I never go to any of these AI tools with a blank slate, having no idea what it is that I'm trying to, gather information on. And many times, I'll upload files that I have, notes that I have, photos that I have, and those sorts of things for them to draw from. And so a lot of what's produced is based on that content, on my content. It's not just coming out of nowhere or just purely drawn from the internet. So those are just things that I do, and things that I think are important related to AI technology. And even though I am someone that uses it and thinks that it has advantages, I'm also very much aware of the ways that the ownership and use of it is very complicated. I'm not a fan of the way that AI technology is used in instances of war and conflict, to track people, to determine where to bomb, and all those sorts of things. I'm not here for any of that. I think that's awful. And for me, you could say, oh, well, just don't use it. That's not going to stop the development of these AI tools and this technology. We live in a capitalist society and a capitalist driven world, really, as far as where dominance is. Then it's coming from places of capitalism, right, as its political and economic structure. So in one way or another, you are feeding into that system. And even not voluntarily, perhaps, for some people, you would prefer to not do that. But every time you buy something, every time you pay rent to a rentier, a landlord, you're investing in this system. There's no way around it in a capitalist society. Yes, I think it's good to be mindful of these things and try to avoid the more harmful aspects of this as much as you can. But I don't think that the argument that using AI is contributing to poor outcomes in the world or disasters and things like that, I don't think that's always fair. I do think there is, a case for the environmental consequences of AI technology, and and perhaps even the displacement that may occur to build these data centers and things like that, all very valid. But again, we have to understand that this is already happening with animal agriculture. It's already happening with resource extractions. It's not like if we take all of the AI out of the picture, then everything is great. Things were a mess long before these newer AI tools were developed. And of course, these are newer AI tools. There's been AI technology really ever since the development of the internet, when you think about it. We're just seeing it at a much more advanced standard than what we've seen in the past. And I mean, now there's just like these incredible tools, that are certainly new and new innovations. So it's complicated. I don't see myself as ever promoting AI as something that everyone needs to use or that's good for the world or anything like that, because I really don't believe that. But I do think that even if you don't use AI, it would benefit you to at least understand it, because it's certainly going to be a part of everything that you're doing. If you're online in any way, shape, or form, if you're employed in any way, shape, or form, you're going to encounter AI or some aspect of it. So I think that's all that I wanted to say about this. I have other videos on my channel related to AI, and there will be, more videos to come as I, continue to learn and explore more about this. But I just want to say that I understand the social implications of AI technology, and they're certainly not all good. They're certainly not all good, and they're not going to save us from the inequalities that exist in the world. AI is not going to change that. And in some ways, maybe it'll further exasperate some of those inequalities. But I do think that it can have personal advantages to work life, which is the way that I really understand its utility the most. So this is Class with Prof. Eve, where we connect sociology to everyday life. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Peace.